Hello, Clan fans! I know this is a new setting. This is my car. I will be doing a video later in my studio slash office, but I just wanted to come on here and do an intro because I just finished watching the finale of Blood of My Blood, and wow, that's all I'm going to say because I am definitely shocked about how some things went in that finale. But yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about on that one. Now, I was originally going to do all the episodes and cover everything, but my schedule just ended up being very wonky, and mental health stuff, it was just going to be a lot to do. So I just ended up deciding, you know what, I'm just going to do a video for the finale, and let's just leave it at that. I'll talk about some points that happened throughout the season, so I'll catch up on a couple of things, but otherwise, yeah, this is mostly going to be a finale talk. But yeah, I will definitely say there was a character death I was not expecting at all, and there are some things that I definitely didn't think it was going in the direction that it went, although there were some people who did predict a couple of things, so kudos to you guys, you got that right. But yeah, let us talk about the finale of the season finale of Blood of My Blood, called Something Borrowed. All right, I'm back in my office and I'm ready to chat about Blood of My Blood season 1 finale. Now, there was a lot that happened because it was actually an hour and a half long episode, which I'm glad they covered a lot of ground with that. And we did end up, we moved the story along pretty good, I thought. So what happened in the penultimate episode was Brian basically ended up getting his heart broken by Ellen because Ellen was trying to protect him from Colm, who threatened to end their relationship by killing Brian. So she had made a deal with him, like, I will stop seeing him if you do not do any harm to him. They both agreed. Ellen broke his heart, and we thought that was that. But at the end of the episode, there were men coming after him, the Gallowglasses, I believe is their name. And Murtaugh comes in, and their friendship is restored. And basically, he's on the run now with Murtaugh because, yeah, Colm didn't keep his word. Which isn't shocking, but you're gonna be disappointed in the characters regardless. But yes, so basically in this episode, Brian learns that and he goes to Castle Leoch and he manages to get a Grant plaid, and he sneaks in, but he makes the mistake of calling over Jocasta, not realizing that she's Ellen's sister, and she remembers him. She knows who he is, so he can't really lie his way out of this one. So instead, he does tell her the truth, and she actually helps him get to Ellen's room, where he tells her what happened, and Jocasta is actually on his side, which I was not expecting that. That was surprising. Like, I knew there was going to be some sisterly love in this episode, which I'm really glad we got, because we did see Jocasta last time in episode 5 when things did not go well with Beltane. So yeah, they learn all about that, and Mrs. Fitz also learns that Murtaugh got hurt in the process because he got an arrow shot in his leg. So both Mrs. Fitz and Jocasta actually have a hand in helping Ellen and Brian escape Castle Leoch. I wasn't expecting that. I really was not gonna assume that they had anything to do with that, especially because Mrs. Fitz seemed very like she was definitely trying to get Ellen on the right track with the whole arranged marriage thing. So yeah, that was definitely an interesting character change there. But I thought it was beautiful. It was nice to show that they had allies in them. And yeah, no, this episode had some surprises, I will say. One of the biggest surprises. So we don't exactly see everything happen as it happens. You just kind of you go from point A to point B without the middle, but it's okay. because after Ellen goes to talk to Colin, because she's trying to, I think a part of her wants to mention that you broke your word and now I can break mine, but instead she just basically kind of hints like, you don't need to give anything more to me. And she leaves, and the next time we see Colin, Malcolm Grant is in his study telling him, Ellen's run off, and I'm like, whoa, that was quick. Oh, my cat wanted to be a part of this conversation too. Say hi, Lily. So yes, Malcolm has learned that Ellen has run off, and he is angry. Like, this is probably the first time we've seen him truly angry. Like, I would say he was fairly angry when Dougal attacked him in the first episode, but ever since, he's been fairly like that cinnamon roll kind of character. And you feel bad for him because he's going to get his heart broken, you know. Yes, they are now facing a dilemma where if Ellen is not going to marry Malcolm, then the Grants are going to go to war with Clan Mackenzie. So Colin has to think fast, and he tells Ned, you know what, go get Dougal and tell him he's needed for his clan. And you kind of know where it's going after he says that. So we see that Dougal actually ends up marrying Mora Grant, who is Malcolm's sister. And we know, if you paid attention in season 1, which I know was a long time ago, he mentions his wife, Mora. And we don't really get to see her in the Outlander show, so we don't quite understand, like, their relationship or, like, what was going on with them exactly. But basically, this is how they quell the situation with the Grants. And it actually is brilliant. Dougal was also just like, why me? It's like, you kind of had this coming, dude. But yes, so that part gets taken care of. But Malcolm is still dealing with his heartbreak over Ellen running off. Now, his uncle does not help because he basically says, hey, you know, the best way to get over a broken heart is revenge. It's like, dude, no. Now he's gonna go do something stupid, which he kind of does. So Malcolm wanders off, and once Ellen and Brian try to make their escape, Ellen disguised as a servant, they happen to run into guess who? Malcolm. So at first, Malcolm's overjoyed that she's returned, but then he quickly realizes, oh, wait, you're with this guy. Wait a minute, what's going on? And he becomes really angry, and she tells him, like, I'm fond of you, but I never loved you. This whole thing was arranged, and he just doesn't want to understand that. So then he starts going at Brian with a sword, and the intense fight leads to Malcolm's death. While trying to stab Brian, Brian basically, like, lets him bring the sword down into himself. So yeah, Malcolm basically kind of was his own demise. So yeah, I didn't see that coming. I audibly gasped when that happened. And honestly, because I thought with Jamie's middle name being Malcolm, I thought, oh, maybe they honor him at some point because he let them go, or because he comes into play at some point to help them out, or he forgives them later on. No. He's done. Like, I was like, what? I was actually surprised. I didn't think they'd kill him off. So yeah, that was shocking. There were definitely, I would say out of all the shocking moments, that was the most shocking for me. But yes, Ellen and Brian managed to get away without anybody realizing what happened. And I don't know if they're going to realize, or if they're going to assume he killed himself over the grief. We'll find out in season 2, I suppose. But yes, Brian and Ellen make it out, and they join Murtaugh out in a kind of like a little cottage area that they are hiding out in. So they're able to kind of live like a little life for a short moment, and we don't see anything that goes on at Castle Leoch after they escape. So we're probably gonna pick up where they left off there next season. I don't think we're done with Castle Leoch and all the people there. We're gonna definitely see more of that. Especially since the episode ends with the first Jacobite Rising, like at the very start of it. And Brian has to go answer the call to the Laird, or else he will meet certain death for not doing that. But Ellen is ready to be by his side, and I will talk more about their relationship in a little bit, but I do want to cover Henry and Julia. Now, Julia comes up with a brilliant plan. She leaves a note which is basically SWAK on a rock for Henry, and she's going to meet him out there with their son, but she has to pretend that he's kidnapping her, or else she's going to be in trouble if they get caught. So she tells Mrs. Porter, like, I don't want you to get in trouble either, so you tell them that I am being kidnapped and tell Balak to come and rescue me. So plan plays out. Henry's able to knock out Balak and they get out of there. However, so Lord Levitt is about ready to go hunt them down, but the Grants, good old Mr. Bug, they beat them to it, and they arrive and say, hey, so Henry Beecham Grant is wanted, and we're gonna go find him. And it's like, okay, how do you have time to do this, dude? Like, your Laird is getting married? Why aren't you there? Like, unless this is all happening at different times, I don't know, but like, somehow, even though Clan Grant is falling apart, they still manage to want to track down Henry. Like, Mr. Bug had it out for him from the start. So yeah, they're dealing with that, and they make it to the stones, but of course the men are coming up right hot on their trail. They realize, wait, we don't know if William can travel or not, because he's just a wee little bairn. So the unfortunate decision they have to make is one of them has to go with the child and one of them has to stay behind to see if he can travel or not. And Julia says, I will stay behind and you should go because these men are hunting you. And she has like a better chance of surviving. But Henry instead puts her hand on the stone, and that is where the episode ends. We don't know what their fate is. But we do get a little flash, like throughout the episode, we get flashbacks of them in their present time in the 20s with Claire. And that's actually the end episode, or end scene. With little Claire, and they're saying goodbye to her as they go off to their vacation in Inverness. And that's the last time they see her, which is sad. But just the way that they filmed that so brilliantly. Yeah, no, this series, I think, is a good prequel to Outlander. And it definitely kept me interested. I felt nervous watching this season, even though I know that Ellen and Brian end up together. We know what their life is playing out, but we don't know what happens to Julia and Henry because technically they died in the car crash. So this is all stuff we wouldn't have known. And it's just so crazy to see all of it play out and to see how they played into the history, especially with the Frasers and Mackenzies. And I think it's brilliant. I know there have been complaints, but I'm not expecting 100% perfection from the show, because sometimes you do kind of have to change things up a little bit to make it make sense, even if it didn't add up in earlier seasons of Outlander. But I commend them for writing this as brilliantly as they have. And yeah, I've really enjoyed the season, and I'm excited for season 2. So some things I wanted to cover with season 1 before I end the video is I wanted to go over some favorite moments from season 1, as well as my least favorite moments, because unfortunately there were some. Not that it was badly written or anything, just story points that I was not a fan of, but it still, made sense for the story. So favorite moment I wanted to discuss was Mrs. Porter and Julia's relationship. So they start off not being the best of friends, let's say, and there's just a lot of jealousy that Mrs. Porter has with Julia because she's being treated better than she was when she got pregnant by Lord Lovett, which understandable. But then once she realizes that Julia is genuinely doing this to protect her child, and she makes the comparison between how much she loves her own son, she realizes, like, okay, I've been harsh to Julia. I need to do better by her. And they end up being really good friends, and Julia is able to confide in her, and she helps her avoid, let's just say, coitus with Lord Lovett. Sorry. That was on my list of least favorite moments. Yeah. But yes. So she's able to confide in her in that. She helps her escape, and just, like, honestly, their friendship ends up being such a nice element to season 1. And I'm really glad that they were able to evolve past all the issues with Lord Lovett and truly, like, see the best in each other. And of course, I mentioned getting to see young Claire. Oh, it kind of breaks your heart at the same time because, you know, like, her time with her parents is so limited and you just want them so badly to get back to her, but you know that it's not gonna happen. And it's so sad. Like, I know we left on the cliffhanger with them touching the stone, at least for Julia, but I get the feeling it doesn't work, which is going to be also heartbreaking. Either way it goes, it's going to be heartbreaking. But also to get to see Uncle Lamb with her, like, that was really cute. Like, to get to see their relationship and how close they are. So I really am glad that they included that. The last element that I wanted to touch on here was Murtaugh and Ellen. So Murtaugh obviously had, like, this big crush on her, and he was devastated when he learned that Brian and Ellen were into each other and that he realized he had no chance. But they have a really nice moment in the finale where they are alone together, and he's able to give her the tusk bracelets that he was going to give her, and he basically tells her, like, yeah, I was hoping that you would be mine one day, but he also says, like, I'd rather at least be in your and Brian's company, and they basically form a beautiful friendship, which I think is great. That's something beautiful, and things that don't get touched on a lot of shows, honestly, that even if it doesn't work out romantically, like, you can still have the value of friendship and having a strong bond that way. So I love that they covered that. And I loved that we got the little Easter egg with the tusk bracelets. Like, we haven't seen those since season 1. And also the pearls. We actually got to see those gifted to Ellen. And yeah, I just loved those full circle moments that we got. All the Easter eggs and just the moments with the characters that make sense once we get to Outlander season 1. So yeah, I loved all that. All right, so least favorite moments. I already went over one of them. I'm not going to repeat it. But one thing I really did not like in this season was when Julia goes into labor and they have the religious women come in and they're treating her nicely and everything at first. Fine. A little creepy, but fine. But then this is when I didn't like Mrs. Porter, when she turns on her and she tells them, like, oh, she slept with Lord Lovett on purpose. That's when the religious ladies become scary. Because they go full on, like, oh, thou must answer for thy sins, and yeah. And they go at her the whole time she's in labor. And I was so mad during this. I wanted to make it stop. I wanted to go into that screen and make it stop. Like, just end it. This poor woman's in pain. But yeah, I understand why they had to do that to get Mrs. Porter and Julia's friendship going, but did we need it to go as long as it did? I don't know. But oh my god, I hated those women. And I just hated seeing Julia in pain and discomfort while she's already dealing with so much. And yeah, that was just, I hated that. I also hated the scene, or not even just the scene, the whole episode where poor Ellen has to be tested for her virtue. And watching it was just so uncomfortable, and you're like constantly nervous for poor Ellen, and you understand like why she's scared, because there's a good chance they're gonna figure out, oh, you're not intact. But thankfully Julia was able to jump in and rescue her in that moment. But still, it was like, oh my god. And honestly, I don't know if this did this to anybody else, but it just kind of awakened a little bit of trauma in me. Some PTSD that I've had to deal with a certain situation that I had to go through as a child. And yeah, no, it hit the wrong button there, and I did not like that. Which, I know, it was meant to make everybody uncomfortable and nervous, but I just had to go on the whole episode. Didn't like that. I know. It was for the story, I get it. And my last, least favorite thing I will point out is Bug Grant. Mr. Bug Grant. I don't like him. I don't like Archbug. I just don't. He's the worst. But yeah, not only was Archbug a constant foil for Henry throughout the season, but the way he lied about Julia and the child being dead, that was like unforgivable. The pain that he caused Henry by doing that was sick. And he didn't care. And supposedly he did it because his laird told him to do it. I honestly think a part of him was happy to go along with that, which makes it even worse. And this guy just did not want to see Henry alive. Like, you could tell. He was ready for him to mess up one way or another. And he did not like the attention that Henry got, especially from Malcolm. So yeah, he was ready. He just wanted that guy dead. You could tell. So yes, did not like Archbug, and we definitely don't like him in Outlander once he goes nuts. So yeah, bad guy from the start and the end. I also wanted to touch on Brian and Ellen's story really quick. I've mentioned before that I wasn't positive of how they handled the story, and I'm still kind of agreeing with that point at the beginning of the season, that they really didn't have enough time to truly develop their love story, which I understand why. I still wish they could have snuck in a few more moments in there just to build it up some, but I do love their chemistry. Like seriously, Jamie Roy and Harriet Slater, great job. You brought Brian and Ellen to life brilliantly, and the love is very obvious between Brian and Ellen. So I do love that. And I can forgive that they didn't have enough time at the beginning, because the way that the story has gone, it's like, I feel like we can fully accept how much they love each other at this point. And we can watch them grow together some more throughout season 2, and I'm looking forward to that very much. And yeah, overall, I'm excited for season 2. I get the feeling we're not going to get it for a couple of years, because we have to focus on the season 8 series finale of Outlander. Oh, I said it. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be the big focus for next year, and I'm looking forward to it while at the same time dreading it, because I don't want it to be over. At least we'll have Blood on My Blood season 2 after that, so it's not entirely over, but still, next year is going to be a heartbreaker. But yes, I'm looking forward to season 2 once it comes out, and it'll be interesting to see where the storylines go with Brian and Ellen and Julia and Henry, and to see where the side characters come into play in their lives some more. We still have to be introduced to Lallybroch, so I get the feeling that will happen next season. And yes, we need to know what happened to Julia and Henry. I need to know. I'm nervous for them. And yes, poor Malcolm. I didn't love how he responded in this episode, but I also understood where he was coming from in a way. But at the same time, he got too possessive of Ellen, even though she never really confirmed her feelings for him. She just kind of like smiled and was like, yeah, But yeah, it's unfortunate how his demise came. But at the same time, maybe that's just how it had to play out for them to get away, and it's unfortunate, but I'm curious to see how Jamie gets the name Malcolm in his middle name, so maybe eventually Ellen decides to honor him, because even though it didn't work out at the end there, she still like appreciated like their past interactions that they had. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where that comes from, and they have made so many enemies, so it could be a little chaotic coming up, but I am just excited. So yes, tell me what you all thought of season 1 of Blood of My Blood. I would give it a 9 out of 10 personally. Was it the perfect prequel series we could have had? Maybe not 100%, but I would say it's pretty close. Like, they touched on a lot of points. They added so many Easter eggs in that you would recognize from Outlander, and things connected fairly well, and like, I love that. Also, shout out to the kids playing young Angus and young Rupert, who are actually the sons of the actors, I believe. So yeah, that was actually interesting to see them. A little gross, but it's fine. It was still cool to see them make appearances, and the fact that they have that connection to their fathers is fun. But yes. Oh, one more thing I want to touch on really quick. Costumes. I enjoyed the costumes overall. Historically accurate. Not entirely. There are some elements in there that you can tell do come from the early 1700s. There was a little bit of like a mantua style gown that they wore, like both Ellen and Julia. And not entirely a mantua, let's say, but like a late version. So I appreciate that being added in there just to create like a new silhouette we haven't seen in Outlander, and to give a little more distinction to the time that it takes place. However, the skirt silhouette, we were missing bum rolls, which would have at least been like fairly close to the silhouette we wanted for that time. So yeah, that part lacking a little, and maybe there was a reason. I feel like the designer does choose to go with like a slimmer skirt, like you can see that in later seasons of Outlander. So I understand it's the style of the designer maybe, or maybe that was a production choice. I'm not sure. But some of the silhouettes were not entirely accurate. However, the costuming's still good. The wedding dress was gorgeous, even if it wasn't meant for Ellen in the end. But yeah, I enjoyed the costumes overall. They're gorgeous costumes. So, thumbs up for me. But yes, tell me what you all thought of season 1 and what you're looking forward to in season 2. And I will be back with Outlander season 8 videos. Oh man, you know, I can guarantee you I'll cry at least, probably twice, at least. It's gonna be a heartbreaker on that season. I know it. We finally got our trailer, our first look at season 8, and it looks like there's some intense moments, so yeah. I'm definitely gonna cry when Brianna and Roger return with the kids. That moment is definitely gonna be so heartwarming and sad at the same time. This video has gone on way too long, sorry about that. And hopefully I'll see you guys for season 8 of Outlander, and hopefully my blood videos will also catch up with views. I know they didn't do so well. That's maybe maybe another reason why I also wasn't too motivated to make them. But yes, I appreciate those of you who do watch, those of you who give likes, and yeah, I appreciate it so much. And the subscribers, thank you so much. I really, truly appreciate that. But yes, I will see you all very soon for Outlander Season 8 next year. Until then, have a great rest of the year. Happy holidays. And goodbye, Clan fans.